Mr. Speaker said, the Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Leader of Opposition, Honorable Members. Mr. Speaker said, thank you for the opportunity to share with this August Parliament an update on the impact of direct initiatives implemented by the Ministry of Agriculture. Over the years, the Ministry, through its capital programs, have implemented direct assistance to farmers through various incentives that ensures food and nutritional security, improve livelihood by employment creation, sustainable income generation, and increase export income through enhanced production and consistent supply of agricultural produce. Guided by the 5-year Ministry of Agriculture strategic plan, aligned to the 20-year National Development Plan, the Ministry has implemented a series of programs that will ensure creation of surplus to be distributed to all those who participated in this process of surplus creation by providing the various factors of production such as the landowners, farmers, laborers, households, the financial sector, and other input suppliers. Mr. Speaker, our staff at the Ministry of Agriculture have worked extremely hard with farmers to expand agriculture, improve efficiency and productivity, build resilience, and raise output and export earnings through prioritizing certain activities such as land clearing, land preparation, provision of planting material, fencing material, supply of improved variety of seeds and improved breeds of livestock to farmers, and establishment of the critical base infrastructure such as the establishment of farm roads, the public goods, the public agricultural infrastructure. For this financial year, the Ministry has implemented 8 initiatives, another 8 initiatives to scale up ongoing programs. These initiatives include support to women in agriculture, provision of establishment of hydroponic systems, protected agriculture, irrigation kits, orchard development program, small farming equipment program, land clearing support, and provision of fencing kits to livestock farmers. In addition, Mr. Speaker said, the Ministry also introduced in this financial year, for the first time, a commercial farmers equity package to boost commercial agriculture development. In this initiative, with the collaboration of Fiji Development Bank, for the first time, any farmer who wants to take loan from the Fiji Development Bank, let's say to construct a warehouse or to buy a tractor or a excavator, the Ministry will contribute 20% of equity as grant of that loan. So, for example, if the farmer wants to take a $100,000 loan from Fiji Development Bank, the Ministry will provide $20,000 as the equity contribution, and the farmer doesn't have to pay upfront that particular deposit, and it's a grant. Mr. Speaker says, as of today, 7 commercial farmers have received their loan equity, and they've drawn down money from Fiji Development Bank to establish their commercial venture. For example, a farmer in Lautoka who established a manufacturing plant to produce cassava flour and took out a loan of close to $250,000 from FDB, and we provided 20% as an equity contribution. For the above initiatives to ensure transparency and accountability on the selection of recipients we considered an online process in order to select the appropriate beneficiaries, in order to get them to apply. The benefit of the online portal is, Mr. Speaker, says as follows. Everyone gets the opportunity to apply no matter where they are, whether they are in Kandavu, Didia, etc., as long as they have access to internet connection. The process removes red tape. So you enter the data on the online portal, the data immediately in real time is received at the headquarters. Application data is transferred without any delays. Previously, Mr. Speaker said you fill up an application form, you leave it with the Agriculture Extension Office, then it goes to the regional office, and from there it comes to the head of that particular section, and then from there it goes to the Policy and Research Committee, who will then set up the committee. So in the process, applications were lost, etc. So all these complaints have been now removed with this online system. Of course, Mr. Speaker said there were all these systems, when you new technologies, when you introduce, there are teething issues, and we dealt with them. For example, some farmers said that we don't have access to internet. So we then ensured that our officers take the tablet down and get them to apply online. Or there are some officers who said that we don't, we don't know how to fill in the application. So they come to the nearest agriculture extension office where they sit down and our officers will enter the data in the tablet and the data is then submitted. So Mr. Speaker said, all these have been done to ensure efficiency in service delivery. Mr. Speaker said, this year, as outlined above, we rolled out a number of programs to meet the strategic objective of the ministry. One is to ensure food and nutritional security of households. Number two is to expand commercial agriculture. Number three is to bring in more and more export income and take advantage of our brand image of our products in the export market. In response to the ongoing natural disaster and the COVID-19 pandemic, Mr. Speaker said, we had formulated a program whereby we will provide and support and provision of this input to the farmers and at a very minimal cost, Mr. Speaker said. Mr. Speaker said, first of all, to deal with the pandemic and the fear of food insecurity, we provided seed packages to 238,599 households. Mr. Speaker said, these packages consisted of 5 individual seeds, the basic vegetables, let's say eggplant, tomato, cabbage, bean. So different packages will have different combination of the 5 seed packs, Mr. Speaker said. So, Mr. Speaker, so on an average, 9,000 farmers per year benefited from 2019, 9,000 households. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker said, we had provided through the farm response package, planting material to farmers to boost the production, whether they require for 1 acre or 2 acre or 3 acres. So the previous one that I mentioned, Mr. Speaker said, that the target group was households mostly in the urban areas who would want to do gardening behind their home or around their home, Mr. Speaker said. So in that way, we were able to deal with a lot of households, members who lost their jobs and their food security was under threat. So we really mobilized the entire households, urban households in Fiji and got them to start planting vegetables for their own household requirement. Simultaneously, Mr. Speaker said, we mobilized the farmers to expand production so that, in their own interest, in the interest of raising the national income and to boost exports. And we were able to, in this period, over the last 3 years, raise vegetables production at an average rate of 19.8% vegetable production. That's the impact we're talking about. So, Mr. Speaker says, simultaneously, in the same period, we were able to reduce vegetable importation by 2.6% in volume and 3.2% in value, Mr. Speaker said. So while we were expanding production for export, which I'm going to come to in a second, we also simultaneously reduced importation of vegetables substantially, 3.2% in value, Mr. Speaker said. Mr. Speaker said, let me now talk about substantive crops that we are targeting. Mushroom production, Mr. Speaker said, we have noted that we have a niche market in mushroom production. There's a growing demand for mushroom by households, upper income households, tourism sector, as well as export market. Mr. Speaker said, we have today trained 2,000 interested farmers in mushroom production. We have established 5 commercial farmers in mushroom production. I just launched one commercial mushroom production outfit in Waterways and Environment, Mr. Speaker said. And I must say that we are quite pleased with the outcome in terms of production. Over the last 3 years, mushroom production have increased by 39.5%. Total volume at the moment of 20 metric tons, Mr. Speaker said. Simultaneously, by doing that, we have reduced importation from 46 metric ton in 2020 to 32 metric tons in 2021, with a value of 325,000 in 2020, down to 299,000 in 2021. Mr. Speaker said, copra remains one of the most traded commodity in the country. Fiji has around 10 million coconut trees scattered in an area of approximately 65,000 hectares. Our challenge is to replace some of the senile trees. So, Mr. Speaker, currently 25,000 farmers, through the support of ministry, are replanting and replacing the existing senile trees. So we are distributing planting material also through the support of Copra, Fiji Copra Mills Limited, to replace the senile trees. Mr. Speaker, copra prices have gone down substantially because of competition. We are also expanding establishment of coconut farms in the Western Division. At the moment, Mr. Speaker, when you talk about coconut farms or plantations, you will only see it in Dakhan Robe, in Tavuni. We want to establish coconut farms in the Western Division, Mr. Speaker, and take advantage of the increasing copra price in the export market. So, Mr. Speaker, we have got 2 dedicated research stations, the Mua research station and the Dambalu research station, where we are establishing seed nuts for distribution to farmers. So, Mr. Speaker, as we speak, we are doing extremely well. From 2019 to 2021, Fiji exported to New Zealand, Australia, Malaysia, and other Pacific Island countries fresh coconut and coconut products worth $14.8 million, which is supported by a 9% growth in the coconut industry. Mr. Speaker, the other very important crop is rice, not for export purpose, but to reduce importation, increase our self-sufficiency, and ensure that we are in control of our key staple food produce. Rice has now become a staple diet in every Fijian household, unlike 30-40 years ago, Mr. Speaker. Under our We Rise Up programs, we have supported farmers in the sugar industry by asking them to plant at least 1 acre. We are expanding production in the Western Division, Mr. Speaker. I must say that from 2019, we have made substantial inroads in increasing production. We have raised our self-sufficiency from 15% in 2019 to 17.5% in 2021. And the volume of production this year, Mr. Speaker, my feeling is that we would go to our self-sufficiency of about 22% this year. By end of this year, 22%, Mr. Speaker. And at the same time, we are reducing the rice importation bill, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, other key important crops, kava, production increase from all the activities that we are undertaking, not only from last 3 years, from previous years as well, Mr. Speaker. Kava production increased from 12,000 tons in 2019 to 14,000 tons in 2021. Last year, our export of kava was $42 million, the highest ever. Dalo production increased from 51,000 tons in 2019 to 54,000 tons in 2021, with last year the exports were the highest ever, $30 million. The 4th largest export crop, turmeric, production increased from 367 tons, very little in 3 years, within 3 years. The production have gone up to 3,000 tons, and this year the export earnings from turmeric, a new crop on the block, was 22.9 million, Mr. Speaker. Massive demand for turmeric in the US market, Mr. Speaker. Everyone is asking for Fijian turmeric. Ginger production increased from 9,000 tons in 2019 to 14,000 tons in 2021, Mr. Speaker. And the export earnings of ginger is $14 million. Everyone in the Australian market is asking for Fiji ginger. We need to maintain the brand image, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, these are the 4 top crops that we are exporting in large amounts, Mr. Speaker, and production has substantially increased over the last 3 years. Given the infrastructure development, public infrastructure development, etc., that we have undertaken, and the support leverage that we are giving to the farmers. Mr. Speaker, from the livestock sector, we are also working to ensure that we take control of the importation of livestock products. The key industry that we have made substantial investment and we have done extremely well is poultry, Mr. Speaker. At the moment, we are pretty much close to 100% self-sufficiency. Of course, to get there, we have made substantial investment over the last 3 years. Close to $1 million, $750,000 were invested in this industry, Mr. Speaker, and we are 89% of self-sufficient. Our production have increased substantially. Given that we are nearly at the plateau, our production increase will be at a lower number. From 2020, we went up by 1.4% in terms of broiler production, and we have reduced our importation by 1.2%, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are also increasing support to our piggery industry, given its economic importance and traditional importance. We're supporting our piggery farmers. We have reduced our imports from 47.1% in 2019 to 45.8% in 2021. And we are now taken over 80% of the export, the local market in terms of self-sufficiency. Mr. Speaker, a sector that bothers us is sheep. We are importing close to 99% of the lamb meat, and we are putting in measures on the ground. This year, we provided a large number of farmers with fencing material, and we have an annual growth rate from 2019 of 10.3% of sheep meat production locally. But there's a lot to do in this. There's a close substitute, which is goat, Mr. Speaker, and we are also supporting goat farmers, and we have seen goat production also rising substantially. From 2020, we have raised by 16.25% in terms of goat meat production. Mr. Speaker, we are also supporting the beef sector. We're importing close to $11 million worth of beef meat. And we want to ensure that, given that we have got a strategic advantage in producing or raising beef cattle within Fiji, we need to take over this market. We have got about 6,498 farmers engaged in beef cattle farming, and we have assisted them in providing a fencing material, Mr. Speaker. We see this as a binding constraint if you want to transit and migrate these smallholder subsistence farmers into medium or large holder farms. We need to provide them with fencing material, and later on, the successful farmers, we want to provide them with a stockyard, Mr. Speaker. So this year, Mr. Speaker, we provided 260 farmers with fencing material, and we said that out of this 260, all those who are successful, progressively from next year, we will construct a stockyard on their farm, Mr. Speaker. In this way, Mr. Speaker, we will be able to reduce the importation of beef meat, and in fact, we can export beef meat in the region. Mr. Speaker, dairy sector is an issue, Mr. Speaker, even though we have done substantial amount of work in terms of eradication of TB and brucellosis. Australia spent substantial amount of money, and it took them 40 years to eradicate TB, Mr. Speaker. We have just started about a decade ago, and we can see the results of improvement in dairy production. Mr. Speaker, our dairy production have increased. The number of dairy cattle recorded increased by 2.8% in the last 3 years, while annual milk production also grew by 3.5%. Mr. Speaker, we are also supporting the beef and dairy cattle through provision of improved breed, Mr. Speaker, and we will be giving all the TB-free farms the improved Sanapol breed, which can give them much higher milk production. At the moment, our milk production is about 6 liters per day, 7 liters per day. And the improved breed that we want to give them, could yield up to 20 liters per day, Mr. So there could be a substantial increase in milk production, but only when we are able to eradicate TB and brucellosis from this farm. Brucellosis is pretty much under control, but TB is, because of the nature of the disease and the migration that's happening, it's taking time, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I leader of a political party attacked us, saying that we are giving horses, etc. What the ministry needs to give to the farmers is tractors. Mr. Speaker this is the problem. This is the problem when they don't look at all the activities we are undertaking. Mr. Speaker mechanization is right on the high agenda of the ministry, and we have provided tractors, rice harvesters, livestock feed shredders, shelf cutters, biogas digesters, honey extractors, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, we have 90,000 farmers. We can't give 90,000 tractors to each of these farmers, Mr. Speaker. This is the kind of people we have, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are also, Mr. Speaker, we are also constructing. Mr. Speaker, we are also ensuring that we address all the points of the supply chain, Mr. Speaker. And one of the aspects is farm road, Mr. Speaker said. At the moment on our books, we have to construct 170 kilometers of farm road, Mr. Speaker said. We have now acquired increased machinery and progressively we will construct all the farm roads, Mr. Speaker said. Mr. Speaker said, Mr. Speaker said, agriculture sector is continuously subject to shocks. Just last year, the floods affected our agriculture sector, and we assisted 12,000 farmers, Mr. Speaker said, with 250 kilos cash. So, Mr. Speaker said, all these have resulted in a major increase in production. We are supporting 70,900 farming households, Mr. Speaker said. Our non-sugarcane agricultural GDP grew at a compound annual growth rate of 4.9%. This increased from a Fijian 686.8 million in 2018 to Fijian 756 million in 2020. The 2020 crop sector alone achieved a total value of $1.7 billion, Mr. Speaker said, in nominal GDP. Mr. Speaker said, the government investment at the moment, the return on investment, that every dollar we spend from Ministry of Agriculture, we got 9.2% worth of output, Mr. Speaker said. Mr. Speaker said, for the first time ever in 2020, we crossed the export of non-sugar agriculture, $100 million, 106 million. 2023, Mr. Speaker said, our exports were $121 million, Mr. Speaker said. Mr. Speaker said, with increase in output, increase in export income, Mr. Speaker said, more money is transferred to the farmers, Mr. Speaker said. In 2019, IMA alone transferred $1.5 million. In 2021, IMA alone transferred $5.8 million to the farmers, Mr. Speaker said. Mr. Speaker said, we're supporting 70,000 farm households and about 10,000 vendors, Mr. Speaker, directly to the agriculture growth, Mr. Speaker said. Mr. Speaker said, the money that we have in the budget for agriculture, we don't treat it as an expenditure, we treat it as an investment, Mr. Speaker said.